Dear friends, good evening. Welcome to the first event within our cultural and enlightenment program, which precedes a major international exhibition titled Diversity United, Contemporary Art of Europe. And I have the pleasure to call for the first session panelists, Sergey Fofunov, and artists participating in the exhibition, Irina Korina and Pavel Brăila. Any preference for the seats? Thank you very much for the introductions. I thank everybody who had enough stamina and who was willing to come to the Tretyakov gallery to listen to what we're going to say, to listen to the artists, and I'll do my best to be as short as possible. We'll make sure that our artists can speak for themselves, and I am glad that this all happened. The exhibition is open, and I hope that some of you have seen it already. What is especially important for our today's meeting, we have friends here. We all know each other, and the idea was quite spontaneous. We did not know this about it a week ago, about such a meeting. If we need a meeting, we must make arrangements for that. But Pasha, if we know each other, Ira, if we know each other, nobody objected. So we are like all pieces of one puzzle. We have also this star symbols. We're wearing them, and this is part of Pavel's project. So we do not have any philosophical title for it. We just gathered to speak about our common past. We all belong to the same generation. At least each of us has memories of the Soviet past. Different dimensions those were. Pavel was born in Chisinau, this is Moldova now, and he represents Moldavia, of 34 countries represented in this exhibition. Irina Korina, one of the rare artists of Russia. It's not just Russian and European project, it's European project. And we chose Irina, and it's great that she had inspiration to create a new work for this exhibition. So Pavel from Chisinau, myself from Leningrad, Irina from Moscow, and each of us has this past. We saw how the country was transforming, and for the majority of our lives, we lived in the post-Soviet space. Everybody speaks about post-Soviet space today, but Soviet is gone long ago, and it's probably time to forget about it completely. Nevertheless, whenever we speak about these territory, this space, we call it post-Soviet. We cannot let it go. Maybe some of you would like to comment what post-Soviet means for you. My father has a good saying. When we talk, he said, the Soviet Union will die, will disappear. It will all disappear when the last person born in it will die, because until that time, especially those people who were born and who were adults by the time of its disappearance, those who are younger, when they realized themselves to be adults, the Soviet Union did not exist, and they know it only because of the stories of the older compatriots. When you come to Russia, you come across post-Soviet things everywhere. In Moldova, that is almost non-existent already, because the alphabet changed, and in the Soviet time, that was Moldovan language, and that was on Cyrillic alphabet. And one of the major shifts we went back to Romanian language. It's based on Latin alphabet. And when it all happened, I was 20 then, and I was very much interested. I was 19, sorry. I finished secondary school, and I wrote my exam, that was written exam in literature. I did that in Cyrillic alphabet, and a few months later, with my entry exams to the university, I had to use Latin alphabet already, but I took it as a game of sort. For example, my wife, when I speak Moldavian, it's the same as Romanian. My friends from Romania, they say that I speak with Russian accent. My wife was born when Moldova was independent already. Before the time she went to school, it was all Latin alphabet based, so she speaks pure language. I should say that this is one of the terms that could be applied to our time. Of course, we could call it differently, and it's an aesthetic category as well, linked to optics. When you move around, you feel it all the time. Whenever you cross the border, it starts looking different. So it's something that bonds us together, this space, and you see, and you can clearly distinguish where you are, whether it is the post-Soviet space. I go back to the language issue. Pavel, this is a question to you. Pavel speaks Russian with us, but his first language, the language of the family, was Moldavian and Romanian. Whoever was in Moldova, in Chisinau, they can speak Russian freely, though this is not necessarily the language that is kept in the family or at school. It's a language that comes from a side. And Pavel, probably you noticed it, he speaks with some Odessa accent, I should say. It's the southern accent. And I would like to ask you to explain how this structure, multinational structure, works, how it works in Moldova, in Chisinau. Well, that will be worth the whole night. But to make it short, Russian language was always present. It has always been there. Romanian channels, TV channels, radio channels, they popped in later. First, if we take TV broadcasting, we always had Russian channels. Romanian language channels appeared later, and now in schools they no longer teach Russian. It's a rare case, and they do not even teach French. I don't know why, but foreign language of first choice at school was always French, as one from the Roman group. There was a belief that it was easier to learn French, unlike English or German. And today, with all the changes, they make focus on English as a foreign language for studies today. Though with French we had very good background, the whole system, and it worked well. we had French alliance since the time of the Soviet Union disappearance, and before many students attended French courses, and today everybody wants English, and Chinese became quite fashionable too. And Russian language was always present, and thanks to the music, of course, radio broadcasting, music hits. Once we had radio chanson as the most popular channel, radio channel once. Children could not understand that because they sang about penitentiaries a lot. So we see this outflow of population today, and people flee to Europe to find work, to make some money, and to start their life afresh, because the situation in Moldova is not brilliant. So many people leave for Europe, and many leave for Russia as well. And thanks to these two poles, we have this multi-language space. Many children, for example, parents leave for Italy. The third or the second language becomes Italian. If this is Portugal, then it's Portuguese. If they go to Russia, Russian language is present in the family as well. And that creates a unique multicultural space, thanks to this multicultural exchange. It's because of the life circumstances. It's not on purpose. It just happens. It's this roundabout. Let's go back to art. I wanted to listen to a story about Betya Markovna. Okay, we'll postpone that to a later time. And let me address to Irina this same question. Was that a conscious decision to become an artist, and what influenced you and how that transformed over time? Because my generation, we are very much aware when we moved from the 80s into 90s, we felt free and everything was allowed. No 18+ restriction, no insult for anybody. And all of a sudden, we found ourselves inside a different paradigm. The society changed, the art changed as well. Ira, when did you say this thing, I'm an artist, in relation to yourself for the first time? Of course, this is a very personal family history in my life. My father used to be a nuclear physicist. When he was in his 40s, he decided to become an artist himself, and he started drawing. And when I was born, I thought that I live in an artist's family, because he was always drawing giant crocodiles on the floor is one example. And at the same time, he combined that with his scientific work. And for me, it was natural that being an artist would not suffice. You should be a scientist, a researcher as well. And I intended to become a physicist or a chemist. Unfortunately, my father passed away when I was 7, but a few months before, he brought me to an art studio in the House of Pioneers, and I took that as his last advice that I should continue, that I should develop my artistic value. I always believed that being an artist, it's a natural state of your soul, but in the Soviet time, it was necessary to enter some college or university. I thought that maybe that should not be an artistic school. I was choosing between different higher institutions, and finally I liked it at GITIS. This is a theater high school. I liked how it was all organized. But again, this is all applied. I always wanted to know what modern art is like, what it is all about, because in the 90s that was somewhere nearby, but it was a very closed society, like a conspiracy, like a plot, and I felt that I should sniffle around. And gradually I discovered my friend wanted to emigrate, and she was reading a newspaper for those who wanted to emigrate, and there was a portrait of Markovich, and it was called to Sweden via Moscow. That was a promotion of IPSI, his institution. I came to enter it, and in 1999, that was, I needed badly to learn what it is all about. We had so many future artists studying together there in EPSI. Believe that that was very proper for the time. We had philosophy lectures, we had real artists, contemporary artists visiting us, and we had actions, we had events, outdoor events as well. So that was the most wonderful thing that happened to me being an artist. What changed in your art since 1999, or probably did not? Well, you need a look from the outside to judge. I'm inside it. I'm interested in what I did right now. I like the work that is installed here. I finished it only the day before yesterday, and I do not know. The last thing, the most recent thing is the most precious. For example, my friends often send pictures to me by email, and they say we traveled to some cities, Samara city, and we saw your piece in the streets. So something should be in common. Pavel, the question to you. If you read the biography of Pavel Brăila, champion of Moldova in wrestling, graduated from culinary school, translator, engineer, graduated from Polytechnical Institute within Moldova University. Why an artist? Why? I cannot answer. It just so happened, when I finished secondary school, I wanted to be a cook, a chef. And during the Soviet time, we had sort of vocational training within secondary school, so that school graduates had some skills. And I entered this vocational training for a chef, to become a cook. And I had that was a contest. Girls wanted to compete with me, but I told my teacher that I wanted to be a cook because if I have to do my military service in the army, I want to be a cook there. I was inspired to become a cook by my uncle who worked in a railway restaurant, in a train restaurant. And for the summer, I worked there. It takes 24 hours to come to Moscow by train, so I used this train restaurant opportunity because I traveled all the way to Moscow, walked around Moscow, and then I went back to Moldova. I worked like that for a month, helping in their kitchen, and that inspired me a lot. I wanted to become a cook, so when I came to enter the institute, after the school, they asked me about my credentials, whether I have a golden medal or a silver medal. I had none. He said that if you have a silver one, you have no chances. If you have a gold one, then you have chances, because that was a very serious contest. He suggested that I should enter a different specialization, not the one for the chef, because the contest was too many people willing to enter, and they suggested that I should enter a different specialization and then change after my first year. And that's when I saw machinery. When I entered, I wanted to flee that for my whole life. However, my father was very pleased when I entered the institute. When he heard that I wanted to become a cook, he said that that's for the girls. When I became a student, my father accepted it, but even from day one, I realized that that was not a proper choice. When that was very painful for me to study technical disciplines and geometry. That was nightmare. Why did you become an artist? When I became a bartender, when I worked for the bar in a railway station, Vadim, photographer, came there. And I realized that after graduation, I want to be a photographer. When I started my photography career, I wanted to learn more about them. And all magazines were in English. I decided to study English. I worked as a photographer already, working at weddings and in the kindergartens, and there were courses with the American teachers, and it appeared to me that once you enter, you start speaking English. That was expensive, but when I finished the course, I did photos of our whole group, and I showed those photos to the director of Soros Center. Octavian saw those photos and approached me and said that we are going to have an artistic camp during the summer. I want you to join. You will do the documentaries for us. And when I came to that camp, I saw that that was a different world. Artists. And then I realized that artists, they are a caste. They are special people with special blessing. That's what I thought before. After 3 weeks in that camp, Hugo von Falkenburg came and he tested us for knowledge of contemporary art. And upon that, after that, I did my first work. I can show that. Let's see it. Let's see your first work. May we have the sound on? You cannot imagine what it is like to talk to Pavel and to Irina. We're limited in time, and we can talk for the whole night. So let us speak about specific works. Maybe you will like Pavel more, and you will learn about Beta Markin and how Pasha did his T-shirts for the cruise group concert. So we need some comments on how one or another work appeared. Shoes for Europe is a project that we are showing here. It's the one that made you famous, and it's related to the railways. It made you famous, and then we let Irina speak about her works. So the floor is yours again. Well, the next work I would like to show, that was my first one. After that one, there was no internet at that time. I was attending movie festivals and video festivals, and it was shown in more than 100 of them. Video cassettes were expensive, but I was still sending them out, and that was wonderful. I started traveling. I realized that being an artist, you travel, you have greater vision. And my second work, it immediately caught attention. I worked with paper, and they invited me to a budding list, and Marina Abramovich was there. All performers from ex-Yugoslavia. And in parallel, I graduated from the Institute for Foreign Languages. I joined the International Club of Transportation, car transportation. In 1999, I decided to join an academy in the Netherlands. So when I found myself in the Netherlands, I realized what it is like to be surrounded by professional artists. I had no idea that someone could buy it, or those could be in a museum. I could not even imagine that sometimes you get paid, and quite decently for that. So when I came to the Netherlands, I realized that being without a visa, you cannot stay, and I was sort of confused at the time, and that brought to life this work. Well, and it so happened that when I was a student of the academy, I learned that my works are debated. Several curators asked for documentation, and they asked me to send in more if I have any, and I did 11 works in 7 months. I don't know how it happened, but they invited me, and there was more liberty then. They asked me what I would like to do, and I said that I want to do something like the one presented here. When I was a student in the Netherlands, in Holland, I often shared similar stories like the ones I'm sharing today. And the story might be short itself. Something happens somewhere, the events, sequence of events, but to explain it, you have to go back into Soviet history. Who is Lenin, who is Karl Marx, who is Dzerzhinsky? For example, Lenin and the trunk. It's a common story, but they do not have this background, they cannot understand it. And many of my friends, they still believe that I was inventing those stories on the spot. And what happens on the borderline between Eastern Europe and Western Europe, what can we do to understand each other? For me, that was similar to carrying a train. It's finding proper wheels, finding proper stories to enable us to understand each other, and to say a good anecdote. It's not an easy task either. Bessarabia, on the side of the Russian Empire, it's one size of the rail track, and when you cross the border, the width is different, and it's not easy. The train has to change wheels, and it takes hours to change the train wheels, and we'll be showing videos. There was a period when I was very much interested in Roma as people. Gypsies is probably not the proper name for the people. They call themselves Roma. And we have a city in Moldova, Soroki, and there is a region there which is called Gypsy Hill, Gypsy Mountain. And the residents of that part of the city, they are Roma people, and they build super houses, almost like palaces. And they do not have any utilities except electricity in those palaces. And when I was an artist then, when I first came to them, I visited their houses, and they're travelers. Roma, they travel, they are migrating nation, and for them, building a house, it's like a museum of a dream. And I worked for two years. It was first shown in the US. Pasha, you exceeded your time limit. Maybe you should say that there were more than 30 houses, and they do not live in those houses. Of course they do not. Ira, we are sorry, but we need to show one more video. I forgot to share a very important story. Pavel is not just an artist or an engineer or an interpreter. He is the founding father of Placid Art that was born 3 weeks ago in Chisinau. Tonight, many came from work and many people are hungry. And that might be painful for you because you must show the next video. We cannot see it. One small remark. I live in Berlin once in a while, and sometimes I need to send something home and get something from home. And I discovered a bus transportation company for myself, Eurolines. I came to the terminal and I saw that there was a whole bus from Berlin, people bringing electronics and household appliances with them. But when it goes back, by the way, when my computer failed, my PC failed, I sent it to Chisinau because it was faster to get it fixed in Chisinau and sent back to Berlin. And when it comes from Chisinau to Berlin, it brings documents and people, and that's it. When you live far from your country, first dream becomes eating some food that is common in your country. And once I was invited to an exhibition, it was called Middle of Nowhere, and that was in Berlin. And I asked my mom to cook it for the exhibition.
Плащенцели? Și gălușeli tot?
Da, da.
Da? Bun, și să-ți dau rețeta?
Nu, rețeta ca rețeta, adică eu vreau ca tu să le pregătești. Eu vreau, eu nu știu, pentru 50 de persoane.
Da? Ei, cam mulți vor pentru 50 de persoane, da, eu știu.
Poate o suni pe tioți Clava sau o suni pe tioți Hana, adică...
Da, să le sună, să încerc să sun pentru că singur n-am să reușesc, Pavlic.
Mama, să le trimiți prin autobuz. Asta, când n-am prin autobuz să le trimite.
Da, da, dar la ce oră e autobuzul?
Nu-i joi, adică expoziția pe 1 septembrie ne întrebă vernisatul.
Pe 1 septembrie?
Și autobuzul pleacă joi pe 31 și pe 1 el o să fie pe loc.
Aha, pe joi vreau să zic că bine, vreau să zic că eu sun pe tioita Clava, pe tioita Hana, pe amândouă, pentru că eu nu singur acolo e imposibil, e mulți ori de lucru.
Nu, bun. Și pe tata să-l rogi să gătească niște gin.
Niște gin, da?
Da, niște vin așa mai gustoase.
Aha, bun, vreau să zic, să facem gălușele cu frunze de gie.
Da, cu frunze de gie, cu...
Da.
Nu, da, și...
Da, și cu varză să facem așa.
Da, și cu varză, și plășinte să faci cu...
Plășinte cu mărari, cu șeapă, cu brânză de vacă. Da, așa. Și cu curieți să facem. Da, cu cartofi să fac.
Da, da, și cu cartofi.
Cu cartofi.
Uite cum vă să vedeți.
Aha, cu cartofi, cu șeapă, cu leacă de ciber negru. Altceva așa, cărniță, năbușită.
Nu, mai târziu.
Da, coaptă, arolă.
Nu, asta pe urmă, nu trebuie asta cu noi de aici.
Asta deodată, da?
Pentru expoziție.
Aha.
Bun, mama.
Bun, bun, Pavel, bun, dar vreau să zic că eu tot să chem și să spun și cum. Nu și îți doresc, Pavel, toate cele bune și succese.
Mulțumesc.
Și ne mai sunăm numai decât.
Hai, mă.
Hai, la revedere.
Hai, ceau.
We cannot. We must give floor to Irina, and you will always remember me as this. I decided to show 3 works, 3 pieces, because when we discussed it with Seryoja, the influence of the Soviet time, all my works, all my art is linked to it. But first of all, I would like to show a small piece of art done for Manchester exhibition when they celebrated 100 years of the revolution, and inflated Lenin tent. Lenin pretended to be a proper shearer, mower, living in a Finnish country. He was hiding there, and it would be good to share that story by the 100th anniversary of the revolution, but I wanted it to be movable. For me, it was important to connect it somehow with the exhibition space. Sometimes I had to make big pieces when it was spacious enough. And the main question that people ask me is, where do I store my works? And all of a sudden I found out that there was a possibility to make an inflated piece. It takes minutes to get it inflated, and when you store it, it's a small piece only. So this hut or tent, it was shown first in Moscow, then in other cities, and they said that they wanted it badly in Krasnoyarsk finally. And this is a marble top of the fire, and this is the surface. This is what the surface looks like. So that was my first project in inflated pieces. I will be really quick because there's no time. 20 minutes. But I feel that I should be speaking very quickly now. Maybe you have questions. Let me scroll through it. I have one more sphere area because I really studied in Goethe, and I have a profession of scene designer. I love it, but at that time of my graduation, I was not very interested in it because it was boring time, and there was little space for creativity then. Many of my co-students, they went to the country, and it was all about developing your professionalism. There was no fly of thought, little space for imagination. I still do 1 or 2 performances in a year, and it's a teamwork, and it has its good sides because you work together with people, you work like a family, and at the same time, it's a real challenge because to have a successful project, you need good understanding why you do it. So I have quite complicated relationship with this part of myself. And when it is a theatrical performance, you must understand why you do it and what for. So this area of my creativity, it extends into some show projects. When I work together with architects, for example, we did it for the Eurofeev's exhibition, and now in Kazan railway terminal there is an exhibition about Yunona and Avos. And what is in front of us, I cannot call it my project in full because this is the entry part. It's a work placed in Transportation Pavilion. It's exhibition made by Museum of Transport. It's dedicated to the history of Moskvich car. This is a car model, and I wanted to do something for the predecessor of Moskvich. It's Kim car, and it's full of illusion, the imaginary world of the exhibition of economic achievement, the world of showing off, illusion of prosperity. And the first car to be given to the best agricultural workers, pretending that that was time of abundance. And this was an order by Stalin, and when they designed the car, it had 2 doors only instead of 4, and designers were punished for that. And then the war started. They tried to redo it, but then the war started, and there was no time for people's cars anymore. So this idea, I received this invitation in 2020 during the lockdown, and I did this project online, which was a challenge for me because I am not a good computer user. I always draw whatever I need, and only with the assistance of professionals I create my works. And in this case, I worked with 3D designers of that company that does inflated objects. And the idea, it just came to me. All this plaster, all these decorations, they are inflated. There was nothing in it. It's not solid. So I wanted to do multiple inflated objects. So this is the abundance horn. And the car comes out of it, the horn of plenty, the horn of Amalthea. And it's a tragic, and the car comes out of it. And there are always allusions of constructivism. I wanted them to work as foundation, as supports, and also with some hint on Gulag, and all that is suppressed by new style, Stalin time decorations. And this car, it comes out with all the fruits, And I really like how it works in this space, because there is the ceiling, it's like printed. They could not renovate the pavilion, so it's all closed with these beautiful posters. So this is the path that brings us to the rostrum from which the story could be told. And this work is also linked to what can be seen on the next floor, because I invented these projects simultaneously. I can slightly comment on what can be seen here, if I still have time. I just wanted to say that what you see now, it was done specially for this exhibition, and it is dedicated to the relationship between Europe and Russia, and retrospectively it's connected with the Soviet Union. It's history of diplomacy and relations between the countries. It's bilateral. It's a bilateral thing. On the one hand, there is a desire to get all the gifts and what other countries have, and there is always fear at the same time about espionage, about all the horrors of diplomacy. And probably you attended this exhibition already, so I'm just speaking about it. There are eagles there. It took us several months to collect those eagles with my assistants. These are souvenirs from the Soviet time, and eagles, this is an imperial symbol related to Russian Empire and many European empires, and this is a predator bird. It's always alone, but in my work, all specifics of this species, it shifted, and now it's like a bunch of pigeons, and they all crowd on the roof of the building. And there is a volcano as well. It's a sleeping volcano. We all know that volcanoes, this is sleeping danger. On the one hand, it's a mountain, but on top of it, it may well happen that all this abundance from the exhibition of the achievements, it may explode. So the potential is like this. And there is also a collection of porcelain. It's like Noah's Ark. It's all about the idea of infantilism, when people want to preserve the past. And they come in couples, two geese, two moose, and they all, the assistants, they brought those from home. And this was an image of people trying to preserve the past. So I wanted to speak about this horn of plenty. And I like this technique, inflated objects, because it's all illusionary might that has nothing inside it. It's not solid. So when it comes to architecture, it should be solid, it should be load-bearing, and this anxiety that you intuitively have, because you understand that it cannot you cannot rely on it. The material is not reliable, so it's quite poetic, I should say. So over the past 3 years, your inflated sculptures were exposed. You're shown in Tretyakov gallery. Your inflated sculptures were in Kandinsky exhibition and in the Living Substance exhibition. And in fact, this Horn of Plenty, you can still come and see it. It will be 1 year long. You may come to the exhibition of economic achievements to VDNH, and you can see it even through the window. And these are people taking rest. This work was done for a migrating international exhibition where a group of curators worked, and it traveled to Novosibirsk, to Belarus, to Armenia, and it will probably be moved somewhere else. It's dedicated to modern trends in architecture. In the Soviet Union, they acquired gigantic sizes when whole cities were created from greenfield, and these resting people, they resemble the Central House of Artists columns. They're now owned by these premises are now owned by the Tretyakov gallery, and they are all linked to the emotions that you feel when you are visiting an exhibition. Once it was quite popular.
Вот такое как бы тоже инфантилизация пространства, свойственная, мне кажется, такому советскому легкому.
Also grotesque, and this grotesque also is associated with some immaturity. I'm eager to give floor to Pavel as well. Is it related to the installation, and what does it symbolize? Yes, it's half of it. The whole installation altogether, it doesn't come in separate pieces, it's one object, and it's glued together. And the presents, they are part of this single piece. This is world of candies, what you may get in other countries, but that may contain a bomb instead. We better not speak about it in these walls. In fact, I realized that while I'm sitting between Irina and Pavel, and my works are also here. In your work, in addition to eagles, I always thought that those souvenirs that you keep buying, maybe you're not buying them anymore because your space cannot house more. And it's traveling. It's traveling at your own risk, which brings coronavirus closer. And in addition to souvenirs, you may bring the disease together with souvenirs. So let us sit at home, all of us. No, you must be very finicky about traveling. It's just a remark.
Да, но я просто хотела сказать, что на самом деле для
For
меня это,
me,
конечно, сплетенные два таких чувства, как бы
it's
страх и, ну, как бы
it's
мечта,
fear
потому
and
что мне кажется,
dream
что как бы любой человек, воспитанный
together.
еще в советское время, он знает, что в подарках от иностранцев всегда лежат
Soviet
бомбы.
people knew that whenever you get a gift from foreigners, there will
Ну,
be
как бы тут есть всякие тонкости. С одной
needles
стороны,
or
может быть,
bombs
это
inside.
прекрасно, с другой нет. В общем,
And
это чувство,
this
как бы, вот как раз про
feeling, it's
постсоветские
all about
пространства, вот
post-Soviet
возвращаясь
space
к
and
тому, мне
going
кажется,
back to
сложно
our
избавиться
initial
от
topic. It's
вот этих
difficult
подозрений.
to get rid of
Сейчас я
suspicions.
поступлю совсем неожиданно. У
That
нас
will
есть
be
совсем
unexpected.
чуть
We have
времени,
2 more
2
minutes.
минуты. Мы немножко заедем, Дарья Андреевна, на
And
ваше время, буквально, может быть, тоже на 2 минуты.
I would
Я просто
like
хотел
to
бы, чтобы, используя ту как бы, роль,
use
которую мне сейчас
this
предоставили,
role of
чтобы
mine.
вы вдвоем, каждый по-своему, откомментировал наших следующих гостей, кто будет выступать в следующей панели, потому что понятно, что все
All
художники видели уже
artists
выставку,
present,
кто
they
успел
saw the
пообщаться.
exhibition already.
Нам
Some
достаточно
had
стиля его замечательной работы.
communicated
Ирина Корина
already.
тоже
And
большая моя подруга. Я очень рад, что наконец-то она в Москве.
I
Сейчас расскажет
wanted
всё о себе.
you
Я
to
просто хотел бы, чтобы вы
comment
дали
as
комментарий, как
artists,
художники, на художественные произведения
comment
этих двух
on
замечательных
the
наших коллег.
Но я могу сказать
works
про
of our
работу Хенрики,
wonderful
что
colleagues. I
я
can
как бы
speak
вот
about
позавчера, когда
Henrike's
наконец завершила
work.
свою работу и
The
смогла
day before
пойти в
yesterday,
выставку,
when I
я вдруг
finished
поняла,
my
что это
work, I
просто
saw
один
the
из моих
exhibition
самых
and I
любимых
realized that
авторов, и даже мы
she's
участвовали
one of
в одном и
my
том же фестивале
favorite
Stylish Hair
artists.
в
So we
Грации. Я
participated
видела
together in
одну
the
из работ
festival.
сделанных тогда. Вот,
And
и я очень рада
I'm
познакомиться,
very
наконец,
pleased to meet
встретиться.
you
Вот,
in
и мне кажется,
person.
что вообще
At
как-то
last,
вот,
I
ну,
believe
некая,
that the method
методика
and
и
the
как бы форма
form
образования мне очень близко,
that you
интересно.
work
Я
with,
очень
they're very
надеюсь,
close
что
to
в
me.
итоге
I
очень
hope
много
to see
новых
more
работ.
works from you. Pasha,
Паша, ты
you
по
must be
остаточному принципу
the last
должен
one
сказать
to speak about your attitude to Fernando Castillo.
Работа Фернандо это
Fernando's
для
works,
меня, то есть
for
это
me,
как бы
they are
пример
the example
смелости
of
в контексте сегодняшнего дня и что происходит
brave
в России, то есть
being
высказать
brave,
свое мнение, то есть многие
especially in the
сейчас
context of what is going on in
эта
Russia
работа
today.
как-бы
Many fear,
как по-русски?
and
Вдохновляет,
that
да.
that
То есть
inspires me a
как бы
lot.
намекает на
It-
то, что
it's
даже
a
в любом
hint.
сложном
It's
положении нужно держать,
an idea of
иметь свое мнение,
you may
высказывать
have
его,
your
несмотря ни на что.
opinion,
И это, да,
whatever
очень
and
сильная
whenever,
работа.
and you
Это очень
should not
уместная сейчас,
fear to
мне
express
кажется,
it.
прекрасная,
It's very proper
прекрасно, что
at the
она здесь,
time.
в
It's
Москве.
great that it's exhibited in Moscow today.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very, very much.